Welcome GRD132 Typography 1 for this Unit 9 assignment, which is ex4 font pairs, and it's kind of a hands-on activity in Gravit. And we also do have a font pairs quiz where we're identifying fonts, but this is kind of more drag and drop, so you can kind of do some designing a little bit. It's just a little bit where you're kind of matching up pairs of fonts. So what you're going to do is you're going to click on this shared link, which will open things up in Gravit. If you're not logged in, you'll have to log in, and I don't think I'm logged in, so I might have to log in when it first opens up, and that's okay. Down here is where I would log in so that I could save it under my account, and I'm going to log in. And when it opens up, you can close this, and the first thing you always want to do when you're using a shared link is save to cloud as, so it saves in your account, and I'm going to put this in the 132 folder that I have set up, and at the bottom where it has last name F, I'm going to put my last name F, and you would put yours, not F, you would put your last name first initial, and put your last name first initial. And again, when you save a shared link, for some reason it doesn't give you a save button, so you just have to hit enter. And then it's saved, and what you're going to do here, I'll zoom in a little bit so you can see this a little bit better. And it was delaying a little because this is still syncing, so make sure it's done syncing. And there's a couple fonts here. There's 5, I believe, altogether. There's script, sans serif, decorative, slab serif, and serif. So the 5 categories, main categories of fonts that we're working with. And we're just working on kind of matching up pairs of kind of supporting fonts. A lot of times you'll have a more emphasized type font that's more of the headline font, and then kind of a supporting one, kind of the host co-host kind of thing going on here. And the idea is you want to make sure that there's high contrast and that something is standing out and something is kind of being de-emphasized in the background a little bit, yet it also complements the other fonts. So some of the rules we want to make sure we don't break. We don't want to use the same fonts from the same category, meaning you don't want to use like an Archivo and a Libre Franklin both from the sans serif category. You don't want to use Crimson Pro and Garamond from the same serif category. You want to find something that contrasts. Now that doesn't mean you can't use the same family. You can use the same family of fonts, maybe a heavy version of Roboto and a light version of Roboto, something like that. You can do that, but you don't want to be mixing different serifs. You don't want to be mixing different sans serifs. You don't want to be mixing different script fonts and decorative fonts together because they'll clash. You want to make sure things contrast and complement each other and they don't compete and they don't conflict. So what you're going to do here, this pretty simple exercise, is you're just going to drag over which one works best. Now obviously I have them out of order. So if you think this looks good here, just put it there and be done with it. Now, obviously that might be a clue that it's a little longer, and you could zoom in here and take a look at these. Now that looks a little longer. Now the idea isn't just to match up with the one that fits in terms of width. You want to look at the font too. So I might look at this and say, oh, that's Roboto condensed, and what is this? This is Anton. And they both look like sans serif fonts, so that's kind of breaking rules. So you wouldn't necessarily want to use 2 different sans serif fonts by looking at that. If this was Anton and this was Anton Light, that might work. And then you might squash it or something. But I'm not intending that you squash these or scale them. They should kind of fit in nicely. You know, same thing if you put this here. How does that look? Does that look okay? Maybe. I don't know why the big space is there. But this is kind of a decorative font, Sarah Stencil 1, and this is a sans serif. So that would work, although maybe there's a better one that goes with it. So you may want to look for some of the things first that use this little gap here, because obviously I put this gap here for a reason, and that's because there's, I think, 2 versions that have a descender that goes below the baseline, which makes it a little harder to just lay type underneath there because you have something sticking down there. So I actually put space there. So obviously those 2 you're probably going to use, the ones with the spaces you're probably going to use there. So try to match them up the best you can, see how they work, and the idea is just to get nice font pairs where one is standing out and one is kind of supporting, and they kind of work together with design principles. They're aligned correctly, and they have nice contrast, and they complement each other, and they're not breaking any type rules, meaning you're not using 2 scripts together because they would clash. We have 2 scripts together. So those are the things not to do. That would be a bad combination because we have 2 script fonts together and they kind of compete with each other. They're 2 kind of styles. Even though one's smaller and one's larger, they're kind of competing for attention. So once you're done and once you get them all matched up and they all look beautiful and perfect, then what you're going to do is you're going to save it, and you're going to hit this button over here, the floppy disk button to save it. You're going to make sure that little bouncing thing, that G, is done bouncing and syncing. Make sure you wait for that. And then when it's done, then you're going to hit share and make sure that little circle's done. And then you're going to change viewer to developer. Do that first. And then you're going to copy your link. And then you're going to go back to coursework. And to turn it in, you're going to click on the assignment where it has ex4 font pairs. And you're just going to add a comment. You're going to insert a link and paste the link. And it'll go in both fields. And make sure you change this to new window. That really helps with Gravit, having links that open up in a new window, because it's hard to go back. I should show you what it's like, but if I click on something and try to hit the back button, it doesn't like to go back to my Warren. So make sure you choose new window here, and I'll hit save. Save. So that's it. That's all you have to do for that ex4, and then there's also quiz 5, which I have another video on as well.